If you want to level up as a web designer and stand out, and I mean like really stand out, you've got to master website layouts. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to do that with some practical tips and real world examples. Are you ready? Let's go. Before we dive in, this is the second video in a series all about mastering website layout. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. So what's the real job of a layout? It's not just to look good. The real goal is to guide a user's attention and keep them interested. So if your layout confuses them for even a second, their brain checks out and they are gone. But when your layout guides and engages, that's when your design starts working for you. And that's when you start really setting yourself apart as a web designer. You've got really 3 tools in your tool belt to focus attention and keep users engaged. And that's visual hierarchy, variation, and balance. First up is visual hierarchy. And this is how you set a focal point and lead a user's eye through the page. So think of your layout as a stage. You've got the main characters, and we really want everybody to focus our attention on them. But we also have some minor characters in the back that can be helpful to the overall story. We just want to make sure that the main character is where we are driving our users' attention. And you've got a few ways to do that. You can use contrast, things like light against dark or big against small. Contrast makes things that are important really stand out on a page. You can notice that with the text here. It's this really light text on this dark background that forces our eyes to kind of pay attention to it. You can also do it through things like size, right? Things that are bigger naturally grab users' attention. It's why a page's header are always the biggest text that you see, right? We want people to pause when they see them. You can see it also in this example where we've got this really big image next to this small image, and our eyes are just kind of naturally drawn to this bigger image. And I'm going to assume that this is actually more expensive than this. So this is where we want people to pay attention. Another thing you can do is use color, right? Bold colors in a sea of neutrals will create instant focus. Now you can kind of see it here. We've got these colorful elements that are in between the text. Now, my assumption is that the designer's thought was, this is a lot of text. People are probably going to skim it. So let's give them something that's going to help them finish the story in their mind. So if you read it, your favorite songs, then we've got a picture of an icon. That must-see movie, then we've got a picture of one of those movie action things. I don't even know what they're called. Then we've got your top interest, right? And then shopping habits. So we can kind of get the idea of what this paragraph is saying based on these colorful images. So this is really well done. Then finally, there's white space. You're naturally drawn to images that look like they can be easily understood. And so when you've got a lot of breathing room between elements, right, this makes it look as if, oh, I can look at this and get a pretty clear understanding of what it is without having to work extra hard. But if we added a lot more elements, like a lot more text in between here or more images, it makes it much more difficult to understand. And we're naturally going to say, I don't know if I have time for this. Now, notice the difference between all of the examples that I just gave you and this website. Now, it's not a bad website, but you can tell they've made some decisions where they haven't really thought about making things super clear for the user. We've got neutrals here on the right and the left, and the most colorful images are these little characters up here. And I'm not sure that they're really doing much to share the story of what we want the user to be doing. And then when we look at white space, these books are super close to one another and they're very small, very hard to read. So I'm gonna have to be super motivated in order to really get an idea of what this page is all about. I'm assuming they want us to click on these books. This is the Goodreads website. Which is a great tool for people who are book enthusiasts, but I feel like they could have done a better job job with some of the different things that I've talked about here. Next up in our toolkit is variation. And this is what we use to keep people engaged with our website and keep them scrolling, because the longer that they are on a website, the more likely they're going to be to check out or buy a product or maybe sign up for a service. So variation will help you accomplish that. Now, the whole point is you don't want to have one specific or single type of layout throughout the entire page. No, you want to switch it up, right? Make it interesting. Make elements bigger and smaller. Maybe have a single column layout that shifts to a 2-column layout. You're telling a story as the user is going along. Maybe you've got a list of features that then goes into a testimonial section, right? And they're different columns and different types of layout. But here's the key. You don't want to just have variation for variation's sake, right? You want to have variation with a purpose. So have meaning behind why you're doing things, so it lines up with what the user is thinking, and so they're not confused and ultimately leave before doing what you would hope they would do. Next up in our toolkit is balance. Now, balance doesn't necessarily mean symmetry. It means that the layout feels stable, like nothing's tipping over, right? And you can balance things a lot of different ways. You could do that diagonally, like these guys have here, right? You've got this big text that's got a lot of weight in that section, balanced diagonally with this image that has a lot of weight in the bottom right corner. Or you could also do it asymmetrically, right? Like this layout is asymmetrical. It's got a lot more weight on this side versus this side right here. But if elements feel off-weighted, it throws the whole design off. Let me show you an example of a site that does that. Now, this is Yale School of Art, and I'm only assuming that they've kind of done this on purpose, like made it a little bit of a bad design. It's almost like punk rock. Like we're going to show you, we don't have to do good website layout, right? But it's a good example of what not to do. Everything is off to this left-hand side. And so we've got all of this wasted space over here that we could be laying things out to make it more understandable. Now, there are all types of grids and systems out there to lay things out, but here's my encouragement to you. This is going to be something that needs to come naturally over time. And the only way that that happens is by consuming a lot of design. You got to become a student of it. So go out there, find examples, evaluate them, and then try to emulate what you find in your own projects. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video right now. Let's break down some real world examples of 1 and 2 column layouts that you can use on your next project. Let's start with 1 column layouts. These are perfect for when you want to really command attention. They should be simple and direct and very focused. You're not trying to explain a whole bunch of information here. You got one message that you're trying to get across. And that's why 1 column layouts are great for things like hero sections or calls to action, right? So you've got a short window to convince someone to stick around. So you hit them with the most important things like a big headline, or maybe a call to action, maybe a subheading, right? And supporting images as well. Not too much, just enough to kind of get them the information that they need and get them to take action. So let's look at some examples right here. This is the Figma file that you're going to have access to right now. Okay, so first up, we've got a really simple, you've got text on the top with a call to action and an image that supports it. And you can notice that I've done a mobile layout as well. And this Finta website has done a really good job of doing that. Just kind of naturally go from this heading down to this subheading, which they've almost grayed out a little bit, down to this call to action. So we're naturally one by one going to where they want us to go. Next up, we've got the same type of layout, but everything is left aligned instead of center aligned. So still very powerful, very good way to kind of keep people engaged and get them to sign up for that early access that this paper design website is trying to get them to do. Now, our third layout, you want to be a little bit careful with. We've got text on top of an image. Now, why do you want to be careful here? Anytime that you have an image that's underneath text, the text and the image are going to be competing for attention. And especially when you get into things like accessibility. If there's not a lot of contrast between that image and that text, it's going to be tough to read. Now, this is a good example of where this type of layout would be used properly, because this is, I'm assuming, a creative agency, and they're doing something really creative with their website, right? They've got this really cool, almost spray painted flower that's going with some really bold text. And I feel like this works well here, but be careful, make sure that you're thinking about the purpose of the website and who the user is that would be interested in looking at it. So our next example is kind of the same idea with the image underneath the text, but everything is left aligned. And you can also see what I'm talking about with making things really tough to read, right? You've got this white text that's really small, and you've got these clouds that are kind of floating underneath it. Now, this is a cool layout. It looks really good, but if I've got visual problems, I'm gonna have a hard time reading this. Also, it's a lot of text. So in a scenario like this, I would consider making that image much more opaque, almost putting a really dark colored background underneath the image and turning down the opacity on the image so that the text stands out more visibly. I'd also consider shortening the words that you've got here. We're asking the user to actually read a lot right here, and that's going to make them not necessarily as motivated to engage with the website. Then you've got a really good example here with Nick's website. Now, notice a few amazing things that he has done as this example loads. First up, you've got this headline that goes to a smaller image, right? It's almost like a funnel. Like even in the navigation up here in the right and the left, it looks like a triangle. It's just pointing us down, which is where he's wanting us to go. He wants us to keep scrolling, and he's done a really good job of doing that with his layout. And what I love is you've got pretty much the same type of layout as you did in our first example. There's just a variation that makes it much more powerful to keep people engaged. So think about that as you're creating your website layouts. Next, we've got a layout that's just text. Now, you might think that that would be boring, but when we go to this website, you'll notice that is it anything but boring, right? They've got really bold copy, a really bold headline, state of create. I kind of instantly know what that is. It's very creative. And then you've got a also really big subheading, what's here, what's coming, and what's possible for creators in 2025 and beyond. So they've done a really good job of taking a simple layout, but making it incredibly interesting. And this is one that I just recently found, and I absolutely love it. Now, it might look like it's more than one column, right? Like we've got images here on the right and the left. But when I go to this page, notice something really, really cool. As I scroll down, these images kind of just pop into place in this example under here. So this is a great job of getting variation to keep people interested, right? As soon as I start scrolling, I know something's about to happen. What's happening? These images are popping into place. So see how powerful even one column layouts can be. Just slight variations can make a world of difference. But here's the thing, as versatile as they might be, sometimes you've got more to say. And that's when it's time to bring in a second column. Two column layouts are great for things like maybe feature descriptions that have some icons with them as well, or maybe a testimonial section. You've probably seen a lot of testimonial sections where you've got an image of the person that's giving the testimony next to the text that they had given as that testimony, or even two random pieces of content that are side by side, maybe two images next to each other. Two columns really give you more room to play with without having to overcomplicate the design. So let me show you a few examples in our Figma file. So here we've got a pretty plain layout, right? We've got our header with a little subheading and a call to action next to the images. Now notice on mobile, I've simplified things quite a bit, and that's because it's going to be really tough to have more than 1 or 2 columns on the mobile side of things. There might be a case for it, but in most scenarios, mobile is going to be 1, max 2, maybe 3 columns. You can see our example here. Gillian's done a fantastic job with this 2-column layout. We've got a really clear header here, and they've even made growth funding the thing that is standing out more with that contrast that we talked about. We've got a darker header next to a more opaque header, right? And then we've got our subheading, we've got our calls to action, and some supporting images as well. Next up, we've got a similar idea, but we've turned those layouts into cards. So we've got headers, subheaders, an image, and a call to action. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about when I'm saying cards, this is a type of layout, and it's something that's used in HTML where you call them cards, right? And they kind of look like playing cards. And you can see how they function on mobile as well. We've taken this 2-column layout and we've turned it into a single column. Now, here's probably a layout that you're more familiar with. You've probably seen this quite a bit, where you've got image on one side and then text on the other. And more often than not, this is kind of where web designers live all the time. Now, this is a powerful layout and there's always a case for it. But my encouragement to you with this one is don't let this be the only go-to move that you have. That's why I'm showing you all these examples, that you can bring variation into your design. So use this purposefully, but don't lean on it as a crutch. Next, we've got a similar idea, but we've got a image that's underneath another image, and then we've got some really cool white space spacing between the header here and the text here. Now, why is this cool? It's a spin on this type of layout, right? Image on one side, text on the other. They've made a variation just enough to where it's really, really interesting. So you can take these normal or menial or average layouts that everybody uses, and you can add your own sauce in them a little bit. Be a little creative with how things are spaced out. Notice how your eyes just kind of naturally look at this, and in seconds, I can look at it and go, oh, I know what this is all about. I don't have to think too hard. Now, you might be wondering, why is this considered 2 columns versus 3, right? We've got an image here and then an image here, that's 2, and then you've got 3. Well, if you look at this, there's actually a little bit of an alignment thing going on here. So if I bring up the columns that I've set up here, now you could consider this to be 1 column and this to be another, right? And so what I've done is I've just right aligned this image and left aligned this image, but they're still in the same column right here. They're still stretched out across these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns that we've got, which I'm assuming is 1 column on the HTML. So kind of a creative way to do that. Next up, we have our first bento box design. And bento box is like all of the rage in web design. And so I had to include it in our examples here. Now, here's my encouragement to you. You've got to be careful with bento boxes. They can really easily confuse the user because it's like, where are my eyes supposed to go, right? Like I've got this video that's really commanding my attention, but I'm assuming that we want people to read this text here. So just make sure that whatever has the most priority in the layout is getting the most attention with things like contrast or color or size or white space. You can see they took that same layout where you've got a smaller box on the right and a bigger box on the left, and then we just flopped it on this guy. We've got a smaller box on the left and a bigger box on the right. And this is kind of the power of a bento box. It can be pretty creative, pretty stimulating with some different variations, but you don't have to like really think hard about what to do next because it's all just kind of laid out for you. Now, this layout is our first design that has a lot of information. So they've got a lot of text. It's stacked up one right after the other. Now, I feel like these guys have done a really good job of taking a lot of information and adding a layout that makes it easy to digest, right? And they've done that specifically with these lines and these icons. Without them, it'd be pretty tough to know like where one sentence ends and another one begins. But they've used layout to make it easy to just scan through and read parts of this without having to work too hard. Now, our next layout is kind of a play on this layout at the very top here. They've done something really similar, but they've done a variation of it. We've got the header and a subheading right here, and then we've got an image right underneath that, and then a card with more text and a call to action right underneath. So just another way that you can use a 2-column layout to really help users engage. This next one is really interesting, and it's similar to the one that was up here that looks like it might be a 3-column layout, but it's actually just 2 columns. And the way that they've accomplished that is they've had one column that's smaller on the right here, and then another column that's on the left, and then they're just aligning these cards here on the left and this one on the right. So it looks like it might be 3 columns. It's actually just 2. Next up, and this is probably one of my favorite examples, is a mix and match, right? Like we've got 1 column on top and 2 columns on the bottom. And I feel like C Design has just done a fantastic job of making it really easy for users to know exactly where we want them to be paying attention. Like if you look at this, let's make your brand recognizable, right? The font is really bright in comparison to the black background. So we've used contrast to really help things out. They've got an appropriate amount of line height between each of the lines of text here. And if the line height is too small, meaning if this line and this line come together to be a little bit closer, it would probably be tougher to read, right? So you want to be careful that you're not scrunching your text to where it makes users have to really focus to pay attention to what something actually says. At the same time, they didn't make it too big to where it's like their eyes have to be up here and then bounce to the bottom to actually see it. And then you've got this variation of text as well, where it's a bigger in size header next to a darker and smaller line of a paragraph. So we can almost instantly go, okay, my eyes go here, and then they go here, and then they go here. And then if I want to, I can read this stuff. But I know the general idea of what they're trying to communicate without having to work too hard. They've done the same thing down here. They've got some interesting visuals that kind of keep users engaged, but they're not taking up a lot of attention because what they're really focusing on is look sharp, convert faster, and grow bigger, right? A powerful statement that's going to entice people who really care to pay attention. All right, so now you've seen it. You've seen exactly how to use 1 and 2 column layouts and how they can guide attention, even create balance and keep things interesting. But we're just getting started. In the next video, I'm going to be breaking down 3, 4, and 5 column layouts, the more complex and flexible. These are perfect for leveling up your designs when you've got a lot of information trying to communicate. And here's the best part. You can have this very Figma file with all of the columns and layout ideas 100% for free. There is a link in the description that it will go to, and you can use that on your next projects. Also, I'm going to be adding different ideas as time goes on, so make sure that you check back every once in a while to see the updates. But take this file, use it, tweak it, and really make it your own. It's all there to help you grow faster as a web designer. Make sure that you like this episode and subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got more and more episodes just like this coming out, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, don't forget, if you don't quit, you win.